right. So we are live. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today, guys. Adam Clark here with Noah Karen. We're bringing you Wellness Wednesday. So Wellness Wednesday, this is something we've done we just realized for the last 14 weeks. And that's quite a long trek. We've been consistent. So next week's going to be our last one, at least for a little while. But we've gone through 14, and it will be 15 different. Did we say 12 or 14? 12. 12.
Yeah,
12. So we've gone through 12. It'll be 13 different topics based all around health and wellness. So if you haven't had a chance, those are on there. They're on our YouTube channel. So definitely go ahead and check those out. But next week will be our last one for a little while. We'll take a little break from that, but feel free to always bring in questions. We're all about the questions. And right now, if you're watching this, we'd love it if you could share this. Even if you're watching it later on, share this because the more people that see it, the more impact we can make. And maybe there's just one little thing that you can take from this and implement into your life. And that's all it takes, right? So today's we're talking about mindfulness. So mindfulness, this is a quite a hot topic in today, quite a hot topic. So mindfulness, man, if you could describe it, what does it mean? What does it mean?
So I think it means it's a little bit different for everybody. If I just my outsider perspective everybody kind of has their own idea what they think of when they hear the word mindfulness. But doing some research into it, a common definition, like if you had to put it on paper, would be referring to a psychological state of awareness or a practice that promotes this awareness, or it's a mode of processing information and a characterological trait. So pretty much what all that summed up into one quick little sentence here is a moment by moment awareness. So being aware of what's going on around you, and not only what's going around you, but what's inside as well. So it's pretty much, if you just call it one word, it's awareness. Mindfulness, awareness, very, very kind of common things there. This is kind of to put a little emphasis on it. Like if you were say I don't know, Adam, if you can relate to this at all, but I know there's been times either after a long day at school or after some big event or something, I'm driving home and I'll like all of a sudden I'll be like a mile down the road or something. This happens all the time when I'm driving home on the highway, just like a little bit like 5 minutes later, I'm like, what just happened? Like, I don't even remember driving like this 5 minutes. And I'm like, I was just going. And so in that 5 minutes, I just was not mindful about what was going on around me. And that's kind of that moment by moment awareness. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to have those things. It's very, very common. And that sort of stuff, at least in my opinion, I don't think it's a bad.
That happens to me, the stretch between Waterville and Bangor, that stretch of road on the interstate. Like, I feel like I just zone out, and you're like, oh, you've gone like 50 miles and you don't even realize it. I know a lot of people here can relate. If you're watching this and you're not from Maine, then you definitely can't relate. But it's just this long stretch of road where there's really nothing, and you just zone out. You're zoned out, and it's weird. It's weird. So when we're talking about mindfulness, it's a super hot topic, right? We're always taught, be mindful. You need to incorporate mindfulness. What are the benefits to mindfulness, and what are some of the practices and we'll probably get into more of that later, but let's just say, what are the benefits to being more mindful in your life?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, it's not necessarily a bad thing to not be mindful. So I feel like sometimes maybe our brain needs that break. I never really read much research on that, but there's a ton of benefits of being mindful. I actually somebody in the comments wrote in the moment as like being mindful. So just being present in the moment. I really like that. So benefits of just being present in the moment. I'm going to read off just a ton of things that they're some are theorized and some are actually proven. But in theory, it should benefit self-control by being more aware of that action. So, for example, if you're eating, you're not just mindlessly eating, like looking at your phone, just kind of doing nothing. You're aware of what you're eating, and that will give you a little more sense of, especially if maybe you have trouble overeating. I know I've been there. I feel like probably everybody at some point can relate to that. If you think about when you overate, you were not really paying attention to the meal at all. You probably were, and sometimes it's a good thing. You're talking with people, you're doing a lot of other things, and maybe it was you're just on your phone, but you weren't really paying attention to what you're eating right in front of you. So that should improve your self-control. Objectivity is one big one. So it's almost opening your mind more and being more, be able to think independently. That one's a little more theoretical, but I like that idea. Affect tolerance, being able to tolerate adverse things going on in the environment around you. Enhance cognitive flexibility, so pretty much being able to adapt to those changes very quick. Being able to, something goes awry, which it does in everybody's lives, I'm quite sure of that. Being able to adapt to it quicker, that has been proven to been helped by mindfulness. Being more patient. The exact word they use, I cannot pronounce, but equanimity. Probably butchered the pronunciation.
Equanimity.
Yeah,
Equanimity.
I've never heard of it until this, but pretty much being patient. It helps your patience, which I know I need with that. I'm very just go kind of guy, and I need to.
And we're kind of programmed these days, like everything's instant.
Yeah.
You know, I order this on my phone. Why isn't it here yet? Or why isn't this working? Like, you know, if the internet goes out, then the world ends, right?
Yeah.
So we had the great internet outage of 2021, and we're like freaking out because even though it was out for us, I think it was out like an hour and a half, right? And it's like, whoa, what do we do? But if we're more mindful, if we're more aware of our situation, aware, like, and know that those things we can't control, right, and all we can control is what's within us, then you know that makes a huge difference, right? If you can make that shift.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean that's huge right there. I think that's super important. I mean, for anybody, a great skill to have. A couple of the next things, I think everybody, this is one that will relate to everybody. They all can do a little bit better with it. And so anecdotally, this is the biggest reason I practice my mindfulness is improve concentration and mental clarity. So I'm in school all the time. I got to concentrate probably most of my day. If there's some classes I stop concentrating in, I probably won't do as well. So if I don't take some time outside of school to be mindful, and I've gone through this, I've had times, especially like the beginning of the semester, I was practicing mindfulness all the time. I was not like I took time out of class to work on my mindfulness to help me in class, pretty much. Even though I took a second to not studying and practice mindfulness translated to being better able to study, if that makes sense. Taking time to get away and work on your own mindfulness will translate to other areas that you're working on. And just having a clear mind, mental clarity, huge, being able to make those decisions when needed and not having a lot of other distractions and stuff in the way. So being at mindfulness will help with that. A big one, this is my thing. So emotional intelligence. I don't know how much you know. I'm sure you know a little bit about this, Adam, but emotional intelligence, I haven't done a whole lot of research, but I know the premise, the basics is being able to, so you have like your IQ, your quotient intelligence, like how smart according to your age you are, super inaccurate, irrelevant, so that sort of stuff. But emotional intelligence is like how well you can see how you're feeling, and how well, like seeing, like say I'm feeling angry, can I recognize I'm angry? And then it can get even as broad as the people around you. Can you kind of sense how they're feeling and reacting to different things? Being mindfulness really kind of makes you more aware of what's going on around you and internally. So that really translates to increasing those things, which is awesome. Just to be kind and positive and that sort of stuff. I think that's huge. And just practicing that can be super beneficial for anybody. And I think it goes on with kindness, acceptance, and compassion have all been shown to increase with mindfulness. And maybe that's just because, maybe that's just because of the person who practices it is already like that. But maybe it's, if you're implementing this in your life, it's going to help you be more aware of the kindness, acceptance, and compassion. But
I don't think I mean, I'm not deliberate about mindfulness. Like, there's a lot of things that I can do better, but I feel like when you talk about the emotional intelligence thing, I feel being a coach, right? And being able to scan a room and know body language and things like that, like we see stuff all the time, right? I think we're in a unique position where, we see people coming in the door, we see them working out, we see their body language, and we see a lot of different people. So that's trained us to be better in that area. Like I can tell just by people's body language, like, what's going, if something's going wrong or it's not, you know what I mean? That's something that as a coach I've picked up, and that comes with experience, right?
yeah,
And I think one thing you can also, I think reading, and just reading, books for anything in the personal development field, like you can tell a lot, but it gets you, it gives you more knowledge, right, about how people interact and how they do things, and I would say it's made me a much more aware, smarter person just by reading, because I can read a room and really tell what's, things that are going on with certain people, and mannerisms and things like
mhm.
that. So yeah, I guess emotional intelligence, that's another topic for that
Yeah,
could be a whole separate topic, but
yeah. I don't, you might open that can of worms,
that's
but
yeah,
I will
absolutely.
tell you, with
Yeah.
reading, I will agree 100%. Open my mind to a lot of different things. Um, I think sometimes you have to look for it too. It won't be present in front of you. You have to be kind of scanning the book and looking for those to pick up those little information. That's the same thing with our like what you mentioned. We were coaches, and we kind of have to read up on people's body language. And I would say, like, I'm still kind of new, not anywhere experienced, super experienced trainer or anything like that, but I definitely can talk to seeing something and being aware of something. So especially this can translate to anybody, whether you're in the workplace or at home or whatever it is. There's a lot of things you see on a daily basis. You see it all the time, but whether you're aware to it is very, very different. And so, like, people can be presenting, this is just our example here, people are presenting with their body language all the time, and maybe a super new trainer might come in, and they don't know much. They're like, oh yeah, maybe that's how they
Hmm.
always act, maybe that's not. And then as they gain more emotional intelligence, they're aware of the body language. They know, oh, when this body language is kind of hinting towards me, I kind of have to imply a little bit, that or the opposite of imply. I have to make
Deploy? No,
a
I'm just
reference.
kidding. It's not
I
deploy.
can't think of the word right now. And assumption, pretty much assumption about,
Yep.
that's not the
Assume. Yep.
word.
I mean, I don't think that's what you're looking for, but you know,
I can't think of it anyway. And it's gonna bother me until I think of that word anyway. And then
it'll
you just kind of
it'll
have
it'll
to,
hit you. It'll hit you after we're done.
yeah, it will. But you just
Yeah.
kind of have to guess, and I think if you have more experience and more of that emotional intelligence, you can be aware of those things a little bit quicker. But anyway,
Right.
moving on from that, so there was a question in the chat here about, I don't know if you
Yeah.
saw that, but about caffeine negatively on mindfulness. So that I don't know a whole lot on the direct correlation. I haven't seen many studies and stuff, but do have a kind of an intro thought to that.
Yeah.
Um, I know everybody's affected very differently with caffeine. As we know, I'm not a huge fan of the term ADHD and that sort of stuff, and people kind of throw it around a lot, and it kind of boxes people in a lot of times. So,
Yeah.
not that it's bad or anything like that. I just don't like kind of trying to put people in boxes. But a common thing with people that do have some more hyperactivity is caffeine kind of tends to lead them to concentrate a little bit better. At
Hmm.
least that's from anecdotal hearings and stuff that I've been told. So, and then I know for me, when I drink coffee, especially in the morning, it helps me get a focus on things. I don't feel as distracted.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm sure that might not be the same for everybody. So I'm sure if there some people that maybe the second they drink coffee, they're like moving everywhere. They're distracted by everything because they're just picking up. They're almost too aware. So there's this theory that we learn about in my motor control class and a few other classes I'm sure people have heard out there, but it's like the perfect amount of arousal for a situation. So I think we brought this up one time, but on the end of the curve, you're not really aroused enough to be focused or anything like that. You're just kind of like sitting there, just like everything's kind of happening around you. You're not really motivated enough to do much. Then you have your middle, which is your optimal area for arousal, where you're learning a lot, you're interacting with your environment, and you're aware of everything that's going around you. That's that perfect mindfulness spot. So it doesn't have to be super like a lot of things going on at once, but it's just your brain is at a point where you can be aware of what's either inside or outside. And then there's like a too much arousal. So then you're like on 100 and you're stimulated by everything coming around you and all that stuff, and you can't concentrate. So going back to the question of caffeine, I think it depends on what level you'll fall into after having caffeine, or how much caffeine. Because maybe 1 cup of coffee, I'm in that perfect arousal state. But if I drink three or four, I'm like way off the deep end and I can't concentrate on anything. So going back to that mindfulness question, I think it's very personal. I think you got to kind of do some digging in yourself, and maybe take a day and try with caffeine, and then try your meditation or whatever mindfulness practice you're doing. Definitely does not have to be meditation. That's just what everybody thinks of. And then drink coffee, try your meditation, see how you feel throughout the day. If you feel a lot better and focused and that sort of stuff, that's your perfect point right there. Maybe you were a little unaroused. You felt like you were still kind of like tired or not mentally there, then maybe try a cup or two. Wouldn't keep going up after that, but and then if you find that you're so distracted by everything, do the opposite. Try cutting back some coffee and practicing those meditation. And if that is your caffeine, obviously maybe you drink energy drinks, maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure what caffeine source you have, but I think it's kind of very person dependent and amount of caffeine and what state of arousal you are in. And that's a big thing that we've done. We've talked a little bit in our motor control, and I'm not sure if Adam, if you have anything to add on to that, but I think that's key there.
I don't have any direct thing, but I think, it's person to person. I think if you have too much coffee, then that can, like you said, take you out the deep end, right? Which is not what you're looking for. So that's kind of, you almost have to do some self experimentation and see, right? I mean, I know if I've had too much coffee, it's generally, I don't have the jitters, but I just don't feel good.
Yeah.
Right? If I've had too much coffee, it's not like I'm wired to the max. Just I don't really feel good because I had too much coffee. But
I think that also
that's a good question.
Sugar as well. That's kind of
yeah. Oh yeah.
I tell if I had too much sugar, my body would be like, especially if you mix sugar and caffeine, I will be super super stimulated to the max, and I can't concentrate on anything. Caffeine alone, I don't usually get to that far point. I guess I've never really pushed it, and I don't want to, but
try it today.
Yeah, that's all right. Maybe it helped me with class. But so moving on to another benefit real quick. A huge one. I think this is, if anybody can take anything home from this one here, I think this is the point. Tons and tons of studies have proven over and over again that stress and anxiety have been super managed and controlled very well by doing what they call an MBSR program. It's just an 8-week mindful-based stress reduction. That's what it stands for. So it just has a ton of mindfulness videos and things you do along those lines that it's literally like you don't even have to think about it. You say you schedule a time into your day, whether it's morning or night or maybe your lunch break or something. You watch this quick 20-minute video, and that's your mindfulness practice for the day. You do maybe 2 or 3 a week, and then you do it for 8 weeks. And they've done these studies, and it has so this study was done with super high stress people. The one I'm talking about in particular was medical students. They were in their graduate phase, about to go on their clinical rotations or residencies or whatever it may be, and they had them all participate in this 8-week MBSR course, and their stress and anxiety were reduced they didn't exactly put it in numbers, but it was to a much more manageable level where they each one could give you their own experience of wow, I can focus more. I have so much more energy for this, all this stuff, just from doing this little thing. They did it maybe 3 times a week, maybe 20 minutes a day, and just for 8 weeks. And it helped create awesome. So
What was the thing right there though? It was consistency. For those 8 weeks, they were consistent and they did it 3 times per week for 8 weeks straight. You can't just expect to, like, for instance, meditate. You're not going to pick up meditating right off, right? It's going to take time. You have to be consistent with it, and you have to be willing to. It's going to be tough at first. It's going to be tough. So just keep that in mind. When you're doing that, always keep consistency, right? Because nothing just happens overnight. Nothing happens overnight.
True.
No.
So there's a resource that's called Palouse Mindfulness, where they actually have these 8-week courses free, 100% free. You go through them on your own and do that sort of stuff. And like Adam said, consistency is key here. And just scheduling that into your day or it just
Absolutely.
week. If anybody wants the link to the page, I definitely just reach out, put in the comments, and I can toss it right on there. A couple other things just to end it. I know this is going back to a topic we already touched on, but emotional intelligence is huge factor in relationships. Being able to having healthier relationships, having better EI, understanding how your partner feels. Huge here. And maybe it's not just a partner, maybe not just a romantic relationship, but just maybe a family relationship, a friend relationship. If you take that time to, maybe there's one that's been slacking lately in your life, you really want to pick it up, practicing some mindfulness, working on your emotional intelligence, huge to help those relationships. But
yeah, no, that's good. That's a perfect point. So next thing, Noah, so we've talked about a lot about what it is. We talked a little bit about emotional intelligence. Studies show that mindfulness works, right? Being consistent is where it's at. So what are some things that we can do that would what are some practices, what are some forms of mindfulness that we can implement into our lives?
Yeah, so huge long list, and I know everybody's immediate thought goes to meditation. In particular, I love guided meditations, but I will tell you, meditation is not the only way to do it by any means. There's so many different ways to do that. And I think the last time we talked about relaxation and we hinted on mindfulness with that talk. It was like our third week here.
Yep.
You brought up something I had never even heard of, and that was I think gratitude walks. I think that's what you called them. I had never heard before, and I looked into a little bit. Pretty much like some walking meditation. You're walking, you're doing your gratitude, and just kind of appreciating nature around you and how you feel and that sort of stuff. And I'm sure you can go a little bit more into that and explain how you do that. But
I mean, gratitude walk, that's a good, it's kind of just the how you start your day. I mean, I guess you don't have to start your day like that, but you can do it at any point in the day. But it's getting outside. It's kind of, I don't know, zoning out and just being thankful, being grateful for the opportunity to walk, and just thinking of what are some things that are you grateful for, because there are things, and that it's just, it could be as simple as you're walking outside. When you're in nature, when you're outside, when you're getting that fresh air, right, that's gonna turn on our brain. I mean, we're to think more positively, right? If we're out in nature and feeling good. So that could be a 5-minute walk, it could be a 10-minute walk, just kind of getting outside and listening to the birds and just being grateful. So that's not the only, that, like you said, I mean, there's so many different things that you can do.
Yeah. The thing I love best about mindfulness activities is they don't have to be long. They can be 3 minutes if you want them to be, and you still see benefits. Compared to like exercise, obviously any form of exercise is great, but like you need a little bit more than 3 minutes to usually see the benefits. And with meditating, you can do those you can get guided ones for 5 minutes. You can find 5 to 10 minute yoga videos. Yoga is a huge one. In my perfect day, I used to wake up, if I had to give you my perfect day with mindfulness in it, I wake up, I would do a quick little meditation, like a 5-minute guided meditation, kind of set my day. Do a little like gratitude walk, especially out in nature if I could. During the winter, that's a little hard.
A little harder. Yep.
Yep. And maybe even saving that for like lunchtime to give me a little pick me up or something like that. Getting outside, doing a couple gratitude. If you're looking for that, what you're grateful for, you're gonna find it more. I'll tell you, whatever your mind's looking for, you will find it. So this is getting off onto another topic here. So then finish my perfect day. I'd finish some yoga, just kind of wind down and be ready for the day. But or get ready for bed, I mean to say. So with what you're looking for, you'll find a big one. This is something that's I learned from Jim Quick. I haven't read it in the book yet, but something he harps on a lot, and I'm assuming you'll get into it in the book Limitless.
Yep.
But it's ANTS, avoiding negative thoughts. I believe is what that acronym stands for. So what you're looking for, if you are always looking into negatives, you are always going to find them.
You'll find it. Yeah, absolutely.
When you're in that negative environment, you're finding what you're looking for. Always do. So that's that. I mean, that even right there is a practice of mindfulness. Every time you hear that negative thought, you take a step back and you're like, oh, all right, I need to get rid of that. I don't want to be looking for those. Let's change it around. Let's look for some good. Let's look in the good environment around us and that sort of stuff. And that's huge. That's a huge step right there. Just implementing that one thing there, trying to get rid of some negative thoughts. Huge. And
one thing go for it. So one thing too, like avoiding negative thoughts. So there's another practice you can do to kind of flip that. So you can use triggers. If you want to become a more positive person and to kind of ingrain that in your head and practice it, then it's, being a positive person, it's about, it's a muscle really, right? You have to work it out. You have to do it consistently. So, you walk through a door frame every day, right? You're going to walk through it multiple times. So think of, what is one positive thing that happened, or what is one thing I'm grateful for anytime you walk through that doorway, right? To the kitchen or through work, and use that trigger as for you to say, hey, what am I grateful for? That's just a simple way to do it, using those everyday triggers.
Yeah. Actually, so something even adding on to that trigger thing that you can do. So a principle we've talked about, I think this is probably the third time we've talked about this principle, but it's the stop principle. Really helps mindfulness. So like you said, every time you walk through a door frame or a specific door frame or walking into work or something, apply this principle. Use this stop principle, apply it with your trigger that Adam just mentioned. And then kind of reset your day. So the stop, this is the third time, so keep it pretty brief, but the S stands for stop. That's literally what it stands for. You're going to stop. T, you're going to take a breath. O, you're going to open up and observe. And P, you're going to proceed. So with the T, the take a breath, you're going to focus on your breath and you're going to see how you feel internally. So you're going to ignore the external environment, what's around you. You're going to take a breath in. Am I feeling angry? Am I excited? Am I I don't know, whatever, am I hungry? Whatever you're feeling, you kind of think about it for a second. Okay. You appreciate that feeling. It's there for a reason. Don't hate that feeling. If you're angry, don't hate you're angry. Appreciate why it's there. It's there for a reason. And then you observe. So now you're going to look externally. You're going to kind of look around you. Appreciate some things in the environment, kind of going back to that gratitude walk. Take it in. And appreciate it. And then this is get rid of those negative thoughts when you're observing around you. Just take a couple seconds, appreciate, do some gratitude, get negative thoughts out of the way, and then proceed. You take a nice cleansing deep breath in, letting out the negative, going in, proceeding with your day. Super helpful. And I know you could do that quicker than I just explained it. I probably took a minute to explain it. You could do that in 20 seconds.
Right. It's not, and I think one thing we do is too often is we make it too complicated. Like, don't focus on, I have to meditate for half an hour. What if you meditated for 1 minute?
Yeah.
Right. What if you just did that? What if you just did meditate for 1 minute? What if you if you don't know how to meditate, like you said, do a guided meditation. If yoga, stretching, this is something that doing a body scan and becoming more aware, of your body, because once you think about that, right, you're gonna know, I'm feeling tense up here. Let me just relax my shoulders and just take a deep breath. Getting a excuse me, getting a massage. things like that, and recovery type of stuff. I mean, those are forms of mindfulness, forms of, I would even argue that running is a form of mindfulness. I feel like when I'm out running, like my head clear, you get a clear head. I think some of my best thoughts come when I'm running. It's too bad I can't write and
Mhm.
run at the same time, but it's just if you're a runner, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, then go run.
I'm not a runner, and I know what you're talking about. I
Yeah.
and it's I mean, it's therapeutic to some people.
Yep.
I mean, mindfulness is all about just being, like we said at the beginning, just being aware in the moment. So while you're
Yep.
running, whether it's internally how you feel, which is usually me when I'm running, I'm like, why did I decide to do this? My insides are dying right now. I'm an okay runner. I
Right.
don't complain about it. And then or just being aware of, like, if you're running in nature or whatever it is.
Yep. Yeah.
One, like, it is hard to be mindful when you say you're on a, no, this isn't bad. Obviously I'm always in supporting from exercise, but you're watching a show on your treadmill and you're running, and that's a great way to get that exercise in, kind of some incentive. I would say there'd be less mindfulness in those situations, which is not a bad thing. But I mean, I don't mean to
Right.
make it sound like a bad thing. That's the only time I would say there'd be less.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
I like the
So
body scan. That's great for
yep.
internal awareness. That's something I do all the time, especially if I have trouble sleeping. Something I do a lot. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So we got a comment. Lisa said, to be successful at being mindful, you have to be in a good space. Being tired and stressed can derail you so easily. These are some great ideas to get back on track. Absolutely. And I think one thing too, if you know you're feeling, well, I guess a couple things. Number one, it's something we need to practice regularly, but don't overthink it. I think we overthink it, and if you're feeling stressed at the end of the day, just take a minute. Just take a minute, right? You don't have to have a half an hour. Just take a minute, and then I would also say at the beginning of your day, you should start with some form of mindfulness because that's going to help set the tone for the day, right? If you have a stressful day going in and you're already, going 100 miles an hour, stressed out before you even get into the office or wherever you go, then that's not going to end well. So ease into your day, breathe, find whatever practice it is, and it really makes a difference. But you have to try it, right? And you have to give it a chance. You have to give it more than a week. You have to give it more than 2 weeks. You have to give it more than 3 weeks. You got to do it 6 weeks, 8 weeks. You have to be consistent with it. And if you do that, then I guarantee you will get results. There's no question. If you are consistent with it, you will get results.
I have,
So
yeah, that's a great point. 'Cause as we go
yeah.
back to the consistency, I have kind of a comment on there. I think I agree with definitely a lot of that you need to be in a good space, but I think um, people might, that, like I mentioned earlier about being put in boxes. If you're like, oh, I have to be always in this perfect environment to meditate, then it kind of
It's never
boxes you
going to
in if you don't
happen.
have
It's never going to
yeah,
happen. Yep.
there's no such thing as perfect really
Right.
with anything. And this is, it's kind of something, so it's going to come into a cycle here, and I'll explain that cycle here. You have this environment, maybe it's not the perfect environment, you take a few seconds to meditate, maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and now you just made that environment a little bit better. And now you're just kind of putting adding a little bit into that environment. Maybe the environment's still not positive, but maybe you just did the stop principle. It helps you put a little different perspective on it. That'll tell you perspective of everything with mindfulness. If you don't have an open mind, if you don't have a great attitude coming into it, it's going to make it so much more hard
It's never going to
be
work.
mindful. You're not
It's
going
never
to
going
want
to
to.
work if you don't
You
have an
have
open
to be
mind.
open to it, and you gotta think that environment you're creating is positive. And I will tell you what, being stressed and tired, that you'll never want to meditate when you're stressed and tired. I've been there. There's been times I'm like, it's the last thing I want to do. I just want to go to bed. But when you add the consistency and then you go ahead and practice it, it will make you. I promise you, if you continue with it, it will make you less stressed and less tired the next day. It will continue to feed in. So this is where the cycle is. You're less stressed and tired. You meditate, you're less stressed and tired, you get better environment. You get better environment, it's easier for you to meditate. Boom, you meditated, you're less stressed and tired. Boom, better environment. And it's a cycle. It keeps going around and around. And maybe just a little tiny bit at first. Like maybe that first 2 or 3 cycles, you're only seeing a little bit reduction in that
Yep.
stress and tiredness. But I tell you, you be consistent. That wheel keeps turning and then doesn't stop. Then that wheel
I
goes.
would also say, Noah, too, like when it comes to that, like I would with the consistency thing, like when you're trying to implement a practice, try to make it at the same time if you can. Like if you know, like at the end of the day, if you're really tired and smoked and just right, then maybe that isn't the best time. So try to find the time that works best for you. I think like at the end of the night, like I always have these grand plans to read, but I'm tired at the end of the night. So I think my best time to read is in the morning, because if you're tired at the end of the day, I'm not going to comprehend anything that I've read. So just try to, our body likes routine, right? So like try to make that part of your schedule. And that's, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, that was a great talk. And guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to comment later on, right? If you're watching this later on, I know not everyone can make it at this time, but definitely feel free to chime in, and we'd be happy to answer the questions. So yeah, cool. Mindfulness, start practicing it, even if it's just a minute, right? Take a deep breath, even if it's just 5 seconds, take a couple deep breaths. That's mindfulness right there. It's the start of a practice. You don't need to carve out an hour each day, right? You don't need to carve out an hour each day. It just takes a little bit of time. It's like with anything, just make it a priority, and it'll happen. So awesome. Well, great topic, man. We'll be back here next week, guys. That'll be our final Wellness Wednesday for a little while. We'll give it a little bit of a break, but we have a lot of saved videos, and we're looking forward to doing this again next week. So awesome. We will see you later. Bye, guys. Have a great day.